Good afternoon, Soho Parish. So here I am back in the hall. As I promised, I would show you a little bit of the inside of the building. I actually also promised I would show you the garden, but I'm afraid it has been pouring with rain all day, which the garden is probably enjoying. But unfortunately, I'm not able to film up there. I'd like to say a big thank you to Anna, Archie and Coco's mum, because she's been looking after the garden for us while we've been out of school, and it is still looking lovely. So next time I come in, I promise I will get some clips of it so you can see how it's growing. Today I'm here to do an assembly, and I'd like to read you a story about when Jesus was teaching a large crowd of people. All that afternoon, he told them stories. He taught them about the love of God. The crowd was so huge it stretched out for miles. The sun shone and birds sang. It was a beautiful day. The people sat on the sand and the grass. They listened and watched as Jesus healed the sick and prayed for them. In some ways, it felt like a picnic. But there was one thing missing. There's always food at a picnic. As the afternoon wore on, more and more of the people complained about how hungry they were. Finally, in the evening, the disciples came to Jesus. They said he should send the people home so they could get something to eat. At least let them go and find some food in the nearby villages, they said. Jesus looked at all the thousands of people around him. The people were excited by all they had learned that day. He did not want to end the teaching quite yet. He said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for all these people?" Philip stared at Jesus. Why, it would take 8 months of work to pay for all the food this crowd would eat. But even then, they would only get a few pieces of bread each. Then Andrew, Peter's brother, came up to Jesus. "There's a little boy here. He has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But that's not much, is it?" Jesus' disciples did not know it, but he had asked them to feed the people for a reason. He was trying to teach them a lesson about having faith in God's love. Jesus told the people to sit in small groups. He then thanked the little boy who'd given his bread and fish. Jesus held up the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Everyone stopped talking. Jesus looked up. He thanked God for giving them something to eat. He blessed the food and broke the loaves. Then he passed it to the disciples so they could give it to the people. That is when something very special happened. Jesus gave more bread and more bread and more bread to the disciples. When the disciples' baskets were empty, they came back for more. Jesus put even more bread and fish in the baskets, more and more and more, until finally all the thousands and thousands and thousands of men, women and little children had eaten enough. The disciples collected the crusts and bones and fish heads and other scraps left over from the meal. When they had finished, there were 12 baskets of leftovers. It was a miracle. So they started off with 5 baskets, but they ended up with 12 baskets of leftovers, and all of the people had eaten. That really does sound like a miracle. And of course, Jesus was somebody very special who could do very special things. And he wanted his disciples to know that they could trust in God, they could trust in him, and God would provide for them. And we use this story to illustrate our Soho Parish of imagination. Of course, what happened wasn't imaginary, but Jesus had a problem. He had a big problem. He had a lot of very hungry people. And very hungry people, as we know at school, can't listen very well. So they need really, really full bellies full of healthy food so that they can concentrate properly. And Jesus solved his problem. Now, we can't solve problems like Jesus could. I can't make more bread and more fish appear if I need it. But I can think of a way around a problem. I can use my imagination to picture how I might solve it. And I can find a way to solve it. And I think that's one thing that children at Soho Parish are very good at. At the moment, your teachers are working hard, trying to solve the problem of teaching you at home. And I hope that some of you had your phone calls now this week, so that they can ask you what would help you to learn better, and then they can apply their imagination to finding all sorts of different ways of communicating with you. So I do hope you're engaging with that, because we really want to hear about what you're doing at home, and we'd like you to send in your work if you're in year 3 to 6 by Seesaw, and we'd like your parents to be uploading some of the things you're doing at home by Tapestry, because we think we can really keep up our communication and we can find that way of solving the problem of not being together. And I'm going to finish today's assembly with a prayer. Dear God, there are many people at the moment who are suffering, and there are many people who may be hungry. Please help them to be fed. Please help them to feel safer and happier. And please help us to do our best for everybody. Please help us to apply our imagination to solve all the problems that we might be coming up against at the moment. Amen. I forgot to light the candle. I'll remember to do it next time. Here it is, I had it. We'll have a moment of quiet. Focus on the candle. I look forward to seeing lots of your work coming through this week, and also some of the fun activities you've been doing. And watch out later this week, because I will be doing a little tour of the school to show you that it's still here.